Hey there, Libra. Welcome to your reading for the week of March 16th. We're going to jump right in here. You have this 11th house card. It says community. You have this Gemini card. It says cross-pollinate. It's a really good time for air signs to be in their community, to get out and socialize, all that other good stuff. So that makes sense. Also, with the Gemini card that says cross-pollinate, I mean, that is literally the key to success with Uranus and Gemini. We need to be able to mix ideas together and things that are unrelated. Again, it's kind of like a hard thing. I don't know, maybe I'm just slow, but it's a hard thing for me to describe. But what I would say is during Uranus and Gemini, it's like a lot of your ideas, or a lot of good ideas, could come from things that are unrelated to whatever you need an idea for. It's like if you need an idea to get your business growing, or to be more successful, or to make more money, it's like that idea might come from you watching a movie or something crazy like that. And again, I don't even know how, because it's going to come. The ideas are going to come from everywhere. The reason I talk about it so much is because I think we need to turn our brains on. I think we need to, when I always say one of my favorite books of all time is Psycho-Cybernetics. I read it at least once a year, and literally the whole point of that book, or a majority of the book, is just telling your subconscious, I'm looking for an answer to XYZ, to whatever it is. You just tell your brain that you're looking for an answer, and your brain will find it. And again, this is like a little superpower for you air signs during Uranus and Gemini, which it'll be there from April of this year until 2033. So, again, we have like a good amount of time to work with this energy. Uranus will move into Cancer in 2032 for a very short period of time. Then it's going to retrograde back into Gemini. But really, like I said, you're probably not even going to notice the difference in 2032. So wouldn't even worry about it. You have the Five of Swords, the Justice card, and the Four of Cups. I feel like you're taking some sort of risk this week. And it could be to separate away from something because we have the Six of Swords right here. So Five of Swords can be like separation, walking away, making a choice or whatever. But with the Six of Swords, it would be like choosing to walk away from something. The woman and the child in this boat, they're moving forward, and they have nothing but the clothing on their back. So they are completely starting over. And some of, I always say like Six of Swords is kind of my blank canvas card sometimes, where I feel like the person I'm reading for, you, could be starting something from a blank canvas, but we'll look into it in a second. You have the Justice card, which is you showing up here in a strong position. Whenever you show up as yourself, puts you in a position of power and strength and allows you to get what you want from the reading. So I feel that you are in a position of strength. For whatever reason, I feel like this week, the week of the 16th, I would start now. Today's the 11th. This will be published on the 12th. If you're trying to do anything, I would really look at the evidence. Pluto in Aquarius, I think, wants us to build a case for why we are doing what we are doing. And we have to just pay attention to results. So if you're working on something and you're not sure if it's worth it or not, it could be anything. It could be a relationship, a business, a job, whatever. I would make sure that you are getting out what you put in with the Justice card, and that will give you an answer. You have the Four Cups. Four Cups is like trying again, especially right now. Like during Mercury retrogrades, I think the Four Cups does say try something again because he has tried something at least 3 times before, and he failed, and now he's getting another opportunity to try something again. But he's not sure if he should accept that cup or not because he has failed like 3 times before. But the trick with the card is that he needs to realize that he learned lessons from this one cup, and he can apply from these 3 cups that he can apply to this one cup. So, this is really a card of applying the lessons that you've learned in your life, about pretty much everything. And so I would just apply what you learned here, Libra, and that will probably help you out the most. So let's see what we get here. With the Five of Swords, you have the Three of Pentacles. Yeah, this has been a big theme for you, Libra, is standing out in work, getting more attention in work, because, really I think the life hack for Libra as well is getting into better positions. That doesn't even mean that you have to change your work position. It could be as simple as asking for a raise or asking for a promotion or whatever it is you want. And so this is something that will probably manifest this year, or over the year, if that makes sense. I'm not saying you're going to get that raise today. You could, if you ask for it, you never know. But what I would say is that, I think your career is changing this year. We've talked about it before, and it just makes sense to me. But again, you don't necessarily. It's not like a change where you have to like cut it off and completely move on to another one. It's kind of interesting because you and Aries, your opposite sign, it's like you two get this message the most. All the other 10 signs, their messages are like quit and go get something else, right? So I think you have a little bit more flexibility as far as work changes are concerned. But putting your work on display is going to be the answer with the Three of Pentacles. With the Justice card, yes, you have the Ten of Pentacles, which is amazing. It's like the universe wants you to be abundant. I always say I love the Ten of Pentacles, but I think the Ten of Pentacles isn't something that we just get unless you are getting an inheritance or receiving an inheritance from a person. This is building, leaving a legacy. So this is something that we will do forever. We will always be working on building, leaving a legacy in some area of our life. And so I think a lot of you are focused on like big picture work themes this week. And it kind of makes sense. This is the last week of the Mercury retrograde. So you could be like really thinking about a lot of things, the things that you've been through and like what they're adding up to, especially in your career. But it could be any area of your life. I do feel like money looks good for you at this time. And of course you have the Seven of Pentacles. Wouldn't be a Libra reading without it. So, could be some big financial changes. With the Four of Cups, you have the Ace of Swords. Ace of Swords is like a victory or big success coming in for you. So there could be a big victory coming in for you here with the Ace of Swords. This sword is above the mountains here. So a lot of you, I think during retrogrades, we absolutely can overcome obstacles. So the fact that the sword is above the mountains, it represents overcoming an obstacle or overcoming some sort of challenge. And I feel like you are with this Ace of Swords. Next, in the area of what's coming in for you, you have this Bull card. It says masculinity, objectivity, and leadership. You have this Meerkat. It says group dynamics, discussion, and effective leadership. Did they both say leadership? Yes. So that could be another option for you, Libra, is getting into like a leadership role or leadership position could be very helpful. Again, we talked about the community thing there, and this Meerkat card says group dynamics on it. So I do think it would be a good time for you to like get into a position where you have to lead a group, or maybe you're working with groups, especially in work or business. But the 11th house, that you have that 11th house card, and the 11th house can just be anything having to do with like social groups, your community, the people in your life, the people around you. So you really could have a lot more pull in all your social connections, not just work related. You have the Six of Swords, the King of Wands, and the Two of Wands. Like I said, Six of Swords, this woman and the child, they are completely starting over. They're completely letting go of their past. So they might still have like a home and, stuff that they own that's on the other side. And now they're crossing the choppy waters to get to the calmer shores. So, this is my card of like the hopes of a brighter future. They're hoping that if they change their environment and put themselves in a new environment, that they will be more successful. You always get the Seven of Pentacles with me, but you also always get the Nine of Pentacles, which is a card of your environment and putting yourself in a much better environment, which I think a lot of you have been thinking about for a long time. That could be moving, could just be changing your job if you want to, could be changing your department in work or business, but you could be changing anything having to do with your environment. And of course, that's, like I said, it's been a big theme for you, so it's definitely something I would be thinking about. But I do feel there are just general improvements coming in. Again, this is just moving on to calmer shores. So a lot of you could be creating some general improvements this week. You have the King of Wands, which is great. This is a card of being bold, being assertive, standing out, which all air signs will be doing now, especially with Pluto and Aquarius, but also Uranus and Gemini. And for you, having Saturn in your opposite sign, Aries, it's going to be really important, Libra, that you stand out. Saturn and Aries wants us to be loud, but we have to be loud in the right way, right? We can't be a jerk, of course. We have to do it in a positive way. And one thing I would watch out for is like reactions to jealousy or trolling or, haters, right? I think that is maybe the biggest challenge for air signs moving forward. Is anything you do, the trolls are going to come out of the woodwork. There's going to be people who say something about it or whatever, right? And your job is just to ignore it. Does a king worry about what people say? Not really, right? So I think that for a lot of you, it's about just living your life. The trick, again, the trick for air signs is that Pluto and Aquarius, that it's really the trick for everyone, but it's going to be more for air signs. And the trick is to let your results speak for themselves. It's like people can say what they want, but it's like if you have the results, then people can't argue with results. So, but even when you get results, people are going to have something to say about it, right? So your job is just to ignore it and keep moving forward. By the way, you don't really have love here, but I do think this could be love for some of you. So if you're looking for love, could be a fire sign that's coming in for you. And I would, again, I think with these two community cards here, that, meeting a person, you could be meeting a person in your community or in public. You have the Two of Wands, which is a card of leadership. He needs to take the lead in his life and get out of this castle and get into the world. Really what he's doing is he's trying to experience variety. He's trying to experience like all that the world has to offer. And, I feel that would be a good thing for you, Libra, at this time. With the Six of Swords, you have the Page of Swords. Yes, everybody's had the Page of Swords this week. So Page of Swords is a card of curiosity and like being a detective and looking into the things, right? So if you are curious about a new direction, with the Six of Swords, it could be a really good time for you to explore a new direction or explore new opportunities. And that's what I would do with the Page of Swords. With the King of Wands, you have the High Priestess. Yeah, see, this could almost be like an intuitive connection as well. Like you could be maybe the love thing is for those of you that can kind of feel it. Like I can't really explain it, but sometimes it's like you can almost sense that someone is coming or that there's a person that's about to be in your life. And if you've been having that feeling, then this is like confirmation for you, Libra. For all of you, the High Priestess challenges us to reach our full potential. So she has no roof over her head on this card. And the High Priestess says there are no limits to what you can accomplish. The only limitations exist in your head, right? So we have to explore our limitations with the High Priestess. We have to explore what we think we're capable of doing. And we have to like push the limits. I think I've said to you a lot this year or last year maybe that I think it would be a good time for Libra to like push themselves to that point where they'd normally give up on something and like take an extra step just to see what you're truly capable of. Again, she has no limitations. There are no limits to what she can accomplish. The only limitation is right here, is her brain. So, I think it would be a good time for you to like push the limits. With the Two of Wands, here we go. We have the Page of Cups. Two of Wands would say you have to get out in public to experience love. So if you want love, there could be like an admirer that's coming in for you by getting out of your comfort zone. The Two of Wands, he's standing at the top of his comfort zone, this castle, and actually the village down here represents his comfort zone. And so he wants something, and he has the whole world in his hands. He has so much potential, but he has to get out of the castle to be able to experience that potential. I would also say that for those of you with a big dream, Ten of Pentacles is something that we build on a solid foundation. And so sometimes I feel that on the Ten of Pentacles where you're in the foundation building stage. And he has this fish in this cup, and I always say that he needs to capture the fish. He needs to make sure that it doesn't jump into the water behind him and escape. And so that fish might be part of his dream or like a daydream that he's having or whatever. And so he needs to capture that fish and bring it down to earth. And so this could be about focusing on the foundational stage. One thing I will tell you is that the rest of this month, and maybe a little bit of next month, I kind of feel like people are projecting a little bit too far forward into the future, like seeing the finish line, seeing what they want to build, and that could be making the foundational building more overwhelming, Libra. So I think the trick, again, is to just focus on the foundation and not get too far ahead of yourself. It's like you have to have that solid foundation for something to work in the first place. Next, in the area of messages from your future self, you have this Day and Night card. It says there's current disharmony due to existing differences in some matter. You have this Helping Hand. It says the universe is helping you find something you need that will lead to your next step. So, yes, I think that you are being guided. Even the Six of Swords, we have the guy in the back of the boat, and he is guiding those people forward. Now, he represents a guide. He represents someone who goes back and forth between those choppy waters on the card. And it looks like you're, again, finding some sort of help from the universe, or the universe could be sending your guides. Like, I would pay attention with the High Priestess. I would pay attention to your intuition, your dreams, anything that pops into your head at this time. You have the Four Swords, the Seven of Wands, and the Seven of Pentacles. Four Swords is my Mercury retrograde card. So I think a lot of you are just, we're at the end of the retrograde this week. It ends on the 20th. So a lot of you could just be, kind of finishing out the retrograde energy. Resting, relaxing, recovering is always a good idea during Mercury retrograde. I think it would be a good time for you to plan out the rest of your year. I said at the beginning of this year that I felt like this year isn't really starting till like March now, basically. And, like last year, I think it took till June for the year to start. It was like such a slow beginning to the year. This year's still a little bit slow, but not as bad as last year. And so I think that maybe this week would be a good planning week for you, even where you think about some goals or achievements that you want to reach this year, 2026. And, again, the other trick for you is one thing at a time. Because of all the Aries energy, it's like if you try to do everything, you're just going to be too much. You're going to feel confused and things like that. But I think if you think I'm just going to do one thing at a time, then you'll actually probably get more done than you thought. And, that is what I would do with that card. Libra, make sure to leave a comment. Really helps me out. You have the Seven of Wands. Seven of Wands, the card of conviction. It says when you know that something is going to be successful, that's when it will truly be successful. It's also a card of boundaries. You'll get a lot of cards of boundaries. And, the other thing I would say is, again, jealousy for air signs this year. I just see it. I think there's a lot of things, especially Uranus and Gemini. Uranus in Gemini is good, but I also think that you air signs are going to be standing out a lot more. And because you're standing out more, you're going to, you could kind of, just get attention from people that are negative. So I would put up boundaries with those people, block them, completely ignore them. All that other good stuff will be very helpful. You have the Seven of Pentacles. Is the juice worth the squeeze, Libra, as always? So I think a lot of you are still working with this Seven of Pentacles energy. At this point, if you don't get the Seven of Pentacles, I get nervous. So whatever. But I think it is a good time for you to weigh your options. You do have the Justice card here. The Seven of Pentacles is kind of similar to Justice because, Justice is cause and effect. Like if I do this, I get that. And Seven of Pentacles, he's at the that part of that statement. He is looking at the result he has received. And he's saying, like, is it worth it or not? And so I don't know. I can't answer that question for you, Libra. Only you can look at the things you've been working on, and only you can analyze those things and say, okay, like some of these activities are worth it. Some of them aren't worth it. I'm going to cut out the crap, and I'm just going to focus on what's working. And so that's what I would do with that card. With the Four Swords, you have the Page of Pentacles. Yeah, like, again, a good, if you're watching this on the 12th when this video is published, it would be a good, last 2 weeks of the retrograde-ish, kind of. Or we have, 8 days left or whatever, so week, I guess. Whatever. I can't do math, Libra. So this last week, I would, do any research that you can. Page of Pentacles is the card of studiousness and learning. And so he doesn't necessarily have to start right now on his new beginning, but he could be researching it and planning it, like I said, with the Four Swords. And that's what I would do with this Page of Pentacles. With the Seven of Wands, you have the Two of Wands again. So definitely taking the lead. Again, we go up to the Eight of Swords. The Eight of Swords is coming up in the good stuff, but the Eight of Swords can represent only seeing one way of doing things when there are many. So, the Two of Wands wants you to experience variety. I think the easiest way to work with Two of Wands energy is to go have a variety of experiences with a topic where you feel stuck. He is stuck in a comfort zone. The challenge with this card is that he has built a castle, so he has built something in his life that is an establishment. Funny enough, we have all this astrology this year that is basically, and past astrology as well, especially Pluto going from Capricorn to Aquarius, is the death of establishment. And so I think Pluto in Capricorn is probably the hardest time to be alive, really. And then, it kind of looks worse right now, I think, for people, but it's not, it really isn't, even though it looks worse, because we are being asked to release establishments. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world with establishments being exposed and all this other stuff. I can't say too much on YouTube, but connect the dots here, Libra. And so we're going to see a hell of a lot more of that for sure. And what I would say, and again, it doesn't matter. I'm not making a statement on my feelings about these situations either. But again, we're seeing it in the world. We are going to see this in our personal lives. He is being asked to leave his establishment, and he is being asked to go build a new establishment. The problem is that Pluto in Capricorn is like 19 years, a little bit longer than 19 years. So we spent a long ass time building something, and then it goes into Aquarius and it's like, okay, now it's time to build something new. So I think everybody in the collective is like, wait, like I just spent 20 freaking years building something. Why do I have to go build a new thing, right? And so it's like that's kind of like the challenge that we all have to deal with. But really, what we need to realize is like the next thing probably won't even take a year to build. It won't even take close to 20. And that's what we need to realize. The other thing we need to realize is this establishment that he has built, this castle, it's not going anywhere. He still has the castle. So it's not like you're actually losing something. But again, I think the challenge with the astrology is it kind of feels like we're losing something when really we have everything to gain. With the Seven of Pentacles, you have the Queen of Cups. Yeah, follow your heart with that Seven of Pentacles. Like whatever you feel like you should be investing in heart-wise is what I would invest in. Next, in the area of the good stuff, you have this Watch Your Words card. Yes, especially during Mercury retrograde. You have this Lion Spirit. It says, be generous of spirit, which I feel like you are. You're a Libra. So I would keep an eye on your words, but it is coming up in the good stuff. You have the Eight of Swords, the Temperance card, and the Five of Wands. Eight of Swords is self-imposed restriction. You know, she is stuck in these eight swords, and she needs to set herself free. And so her problem is that she's only looking at one way of doing things when there are many. And so she needs to step out of these eight swords. It is coming up in the good stuff. So, you know, I feel like you kind of are stepping out of a comfort zone or setting yourself free in some way. You have the Temperance card. Temperance is patience, of course, but Temperance in the good stuff can represent alchemizing a situation. You know, this is a card of alchemy, and he is trying to turn water into wine. So showing up in the good stuff, you could be turning your situation around finally with the Seven of Pentacles. Seven of Pentacles kind of wants to turn around. Seven of Pentacles can be like analysis paralysis, where you've spent too much time looking at something you want to change. And now, I mean, this could be good. You know, it could be saying you're finally making that change. You have the Five of Wands. Five of Wands is like conflict or competition. Of course, with the Five of Wands, we don't have to take part in the competition. We can rise above it. And again, you air signs, that is pretty much the only thing I would focus on is like standing out above the competition. The more you stand out, the more the haters are going to come out of the woodwork. I wouldn't even focus on it, right? And so I've been telling Gemini mostly, but you know, also you, I would be trying to stick out like a sore thumb. But that means that you have to like have opinions and you have to say things without apologizing and, you know, all that other stuff. But I definitely wouldn't be afraid to do it. You know, not everyone is going to like you. Believe it or not. I know that's hard to believe, Libra. But I think it's the hardest lesson we all have to learn. Sorry, Libra. You're not going to believe it, Libra. That was the long guy, and if you've been watching me for a while, you know the long guy always is all up in your readings. I meant to ask him if he's a Libra or not. I don't know. So people asked me last week, and I meant to ask him. But anyway, again, Five of Wands, stick out like a sore thumb, for sure. With the Eight of Swords, you have the Queen of Swords. Queen of Swords is about clarity. Again, end of the retrograde, of course, could be a lot of clarity or getting a lot of answers. Based off of, you know, whatever you're trying to accomplish or whatever you're working on. And, you know, I think that will be good for you with the Queen of Swords. With the Temperance card, you have the King of Swords. You know, these two are divine counterparts. I don't really like them as divine counterparts because they are, they don't see eye to eye. And so these two, usually it's not like the best, but it's coming up in the good stuff. So in the good stuff, these two can just represent two people who haven't talked to each other yet. And if you're looking for love, could be like, you know, just saying maybe you haven't met this person yet. With the Five of Wands, you have the Chariot. Yes, this is your key to success. You know, Chariot is like a victory. The Chariot, he is leaving this city behind him behind. He is sticking out like a sore thumb. Everybody in that city is the same. He is doing something to set himself apart. And again, if I were an air sign, that's all I would be focusing on. I wouldn't even worry about anything else, right? You have this bird flying. It says news is on the way. Could be a Page of Pentacles can be a messenger, so there could be like good news coming in. You have this coins card. It says money will be coming to you. Ten of Pentacles, love it. You know, some people say the on the Ten of Pentacles that it's raining. You know, they're making it rain. You know, the money is raining down on them. And same thing with this card here as well. You have this ram that says a stubborn, aggressive person. Again, ignore stubborn, aggressive, trolls, haters, whatever you're dealing with here, Libra. You have this wheel. It says indecisiveness, allowing your life to ramble aimlessly. That could be the Seven of Pentacles energy, right? So I would be careful of like that, just going round and round and round. I would start making some choices here. You have this chair filled. It says someone new is entering your life. Told ya. Literally said it. The King and Queen of Swords. So don't be surprised if you meet like a new person. But this looks really good, Libra. I like it. So thank you for being here. Make sure to drop a like, leave a comment, and definitely enjoy your week.